Welcome back to another episode. Today's topic is going to be about establishing the run. You can take that in so many different ways. What's really cool is I saw this on Instagram, and the one guy's like, you just got to establish the run, and then went into this amazing football analogy. It's a football analogy on getting your shit together, getting your life together. And I love it. So let me describe to you what establishing the run means in football. If you're not a football connoisseur, you should become one, of course. But it's actually really, really good. I was like, wow, I like that. I'm going to start using this analogy. Well, I got to talk about it on the podcast now, of course. And I also have to use it with some clients and selling my ideas. I think it's a great way, especially for those who do enjoy football. I think you'll really appreciate this. So establishing the run is today's topic. Watching football, a lot of people don't understand it. There's layers to the game. The first layer is score more points than the other team, of course. Then it's, well, how do you do that? And there was a really good book called The Score Will Take Care of Itself by Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh is one of the best football coaches of all time. He built a dynasty that was unmatched until Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the last decade kind of took over. And Bill Walsh talked all about leadership and setting standards and how the small things all add up and how the score is lagging and that the score will take care of itself. But if you focus on the inputs, don't worry about the score. The score will take care of itself. That's like the greatest synopsis I can give in that short period of time. And when you watch football, especially great football teams, I'm going to use my team, the Eagles. The year they won the Super Bowl, not last year, but the year before, they were deemed quote-unquote boring. They were the most boring team, to the point that the league was debating changing the rules of the game to encourage them for more exciting quote-unquote football plays, because they didn't think it was entertaining. The Eagles gave two fucks about score and stats. They cared about winning. And that's one thing I try to describe why my quarterback's actually pretty good, is he just cares about winning. He's not a stat merchant, because the point of the game is to win. And there's more than one way to win. Yes, you need to outscore the opponent, but you can do that in multiple different ways. So here's why establishing the run is extremely important. The big play is rarely the whole story of the game. You have these explosive plays, big plays, exciting plays, where the crowd goes crazy. But usually there's a big stretch of disciplined physical attack that's very boring to look at times, and that's why the league is encouraging more passing plays, but you establish the run. The best two teams, some of the best two teams over the last couple of years have been the Eagles and the Ravens, and that's what they do. They establish the run. It's old school because it worked. And maybe it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it works. You hand off the ball, you get 3 or 4 yards, you line up, you do it again. You line up, you do it again. First down, repeat. I would play Madden a lot. I haven't played Madden like probably 5 or 6 years, but I played a lot of Madden growing up. And that's how I won. I think at one point I was like top 4% in the world, as what Madden said based off of like my ranking. I think that's pretty cool. I played in a boring way. I had a lot of people rage quit. I didn't find it was boring. I was winning, and winning is fun. And the point of establishing the run is you do something that's productive, even if it's mildly productive. You line up and you do it again. You line up, you do it again. In football, you need 10 yards to get a first down. Every time you have a first down, you have 4 tries to get 10 yards. You don't have to get all 10 yards at once. That's why getting 3 yards every single play. If you were guaranteed 3 yards, you would win a football game. 1,000%. Because once you get to 4th and 1, and that's what made the Eagles dangerous, is they would get to 4th and 1, and then they had a guaranteed play that would get them 1 yard with like 99% success rate. And so it kind of changed the game a little bit. Now, they were literally debating rules to take out that play because the Eagles were just so good at such a basic fundamental, boring play. And it was taking quote unquote strategy out of the game. And it's just, we will be better than you at the most basic fundamentals. So I'm using that analogy, and it's going to set up the run, establish the run for so many other things. Think about it this way. In basketball, they say, oh, they went on a run. And that just means that you've scored a bunch of points in a row and the other team hasn't. Or you've outscored them, let's say, 12 points to 2 points. Now think about that in life. I'm a personal trainer. And that's the same principle that you can imagine in fitness, health, work, life. People who just constantly chase these big plays that have a very low success rate versus the guaranteed, we're going to get 3 or 4 yards, we're going to do that 3 times in a row, and now we get a first down, and now we get to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. Even in football, sometimes just establishing the run sets up for later in the game, just like how that could set you up later in life. It keeps people at bay in football. It sets so much up with what we would consider play action. You fake a run and then you pass it. And now you get so many of the other team committing to that particular play. And in the end, that's not necessarily what we're trying to do, but what I'm trying to make you think about is, okay, what are some of the actions that's just establishing the run? What's not flashy, but really important? And I've talked about this stuff a billion times. You know exactly what I'm going to say. Sleep, stress intake, or stress problems. Get your workouts in. Get your protein. Get your nutrition. Daily movement. Hydrate. Consistency. All of that stuff is you establishing the run. You need to establish it. You're not going to win with a detox tea. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. You're not going to win with a weight loss challenge. You need to establish the run. Most people, if we're being honest, want the scoreboard. They focus on the outcome. If you don't pay attention to the scoreboard at all, what's the scoreboard in fitness? It's the scale. That would be a big scoreboard. But they don't care about the system. And what's the system? Again, what I just mentioned, eating good, exercise, getting your sleep, that's what's going to affect the scoreboard. The scoreboard will take care of itself. The scale will take care of itself. You need to establish the run and focus on these small incremental wins. And I think that's a phenomenal analogy. Flashy gets so much attention in fitness. Basics don't sell. I'm definitely more of a capitalist, like capitalism. I do think it's great. But I do see where in certain places in business, it's making money is their scoreboard. Now, you would assume that getting results makes money. That's not always going to be the case. You can use the healthcare systems as an example, especially in the States where they pay so much money on healthcare and they have the worst health outcomes. It's a bit bastardized there, and things can get corrupt. But in all sense, you'd think that getting people to do the most boring things over and over again that are effective would work, but people just get bored and they quit. They stop showing up, and they love these flashy marketing gimmick tools where you're going to lose as much weight as possible in 45 days. It's a metabolic reset. That's a bullshit marketing term. And no one would get fired up by hearing that their life would improve if they went to bed half an hour early. They just walked a little bit more. They ate more protein, and they trained hard 3 times a week, and they stopped treating every day like a random improv session. It sounds too simple. It's too plain. It's too repetitive. People want a secret edge, an advanced protocol, the perfect split, a weird supplement stack. They want a 12-step optimized framework that then they don't need to do, or they do for a bit and then they give up, because then they can blame on that. But the serious, most effective things is just establishing that run. What's cool about football too is when you establish the run, you actually start to build momentum. You get 3 yards, 3 yards, 4, 4, 3, 5, 5, 6. Now you break a 12-yard one. Again, if you're a football fan, look how Derrick Henry fucking plays the game. He establishes that run. Throughout his career, the first quarter, it's like 3 yards a carry, then it's 4, then it's 5, then it's 6. And you need those reps, and it's just so funny. We talk about wearing down a defense. What's the defense in fitness? You. It's you versus you. And you need to wear down your bad habits by establishing the run of good habits. Again, people are attracted to complexity because they think it needs to be. They think it needs to be complex to feel that they are having progress. It creates emotion. It gives you a rush of novelty. And in all honesty, if you're bored with your training, you're probably on the right path because you're probably doing the right stuff that you should be doing. If your sleep's inconsistent, your nutrition's sloppy, your training is random, and your stress is through the roof, all of that complexity is just noise. And when you think about football, sometimes doing the most basic stuff really well will win against the coaches that harp about we're going to out-strategize them, but their guys don't know the fundamentals. And that's where people lose that plot of what's the point of doing this. They become obsessed with outcomes, ignoring the standards of behaviors that produce those said outcomes. They ask, how can I get lean fast? Instead of, how would a well-run life look like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? They ask, what's the best program? Instead of, can I actually execute a good program consistently for 6 months? That is more important. What's optimal for you might not always be what you actually comply to as well. Ironically, what's optimal for you is what you would comply to. So if somebody's saying, hey, I want to start working out, but I hear 3 times a week, I can't commit to that. That's no problem. What about 2 half hours? What about 1 hour? What can you do? And we just established the run. It's setting the standard. Establishing that run, again, you gain a little bit more yards, but it's really about you create control. It's ball control. It sets the tone, toughness. You create leverage. It tests the other team's patience and toughness to stay with the process. And it's not sexy. I actually really enjoy a good running game. That's because my Eagles have been doing that for like a decade. That's their brand of football. They've won 2 Super Bowls by establishing the run and being just absolute dogs. It sets the behavior, right? That you do it no matter how motivated you feel. Life gets busy, you want to skip your steps badly, but you're on this different operating system that just lets you get your actual steps in. A little bit of movement, some exercise snacks. I'm starting to notice that in my own clients. They're listening to what I want them to do. Again, establishing the run is not a hack, it's really a standard, right? Get a good drive together, right? Nick Saban has a really good idea of this with the process. He calls it trust the process. Okay, you want to win the college football championship. He was one of the best college football coaches of all time. Cool, awesome. That's our goal. I can do nothing about that goal right now. But to get to that place, let's work backwards. We got to make the playoffs. To make the playoffs, we probably can't lose a game. In college football, it's that intense. If you lose one game to another like top 4, top 6 team, you'll probably get into the playoffs, but realistically, you get like 1 loss, and that's about it. Okay, so we got to win our football games. Cool, awesome. Well, we can only play 1 football game at a time, so let's look at week 1. To prep for week 1, yeah, of course, we need to do everything we need to do for week 1, but even then, how do I win a football game? Well, I score more points than them. Yeah, of course. How do you score more points than them? Well, you have more drives that result in points, whether it's 3 or 7, essentially. All right, and how do we do that? Well, we need to put a string of plays together to get us in position to score points. Well, how do we do that? Well, we need to run a good play to get a string of plays because you only get 4 tries to get 10 yards. And most people, it's really 3, and then you kick it away if you don't get a touchdown. So 3 plays. All right, cool. Well, we need to execute 3 plays in a row. There's 11 on 11. That means 11 of our guys have to beat 11 of their guys for the play to succeed. All right, well, how do we get our guys to win the play? You need to then be practicing good for all week long and scouting. Okay, so now we have to have a good practice. Okay, how do we have a good practice? Each rep in practice is what makes up practice. So you have to have tons of good reps in practice. Okay, and then on top of that, you have to eat, sleep, He would break down the goal of winning the championship down to every action leading up to that is the process, and I need you to focus on the process. Don't worry about winning the game right now. Your job is to make this block. That is it. And it's so fundamental that I love it. And that makes so much sense. Think about that in life. And that's why a lot of these guys succeed in life. A lot of these guys that go through Bill Walsh, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, they all talk about the process, and the coaches and players around them typically succeed in life, the ones that buy into that. And so the real power is when you build a high standard for basic behaviors and you stop negotiating with yourself. I want to go to the gym today, but my dog ate my shoes. My dog did eat my shoes. Guess what? I still went to the gym. Did your dog eat your shoes? And did you go to the gym? No, probably not. Maybe your dog didn't eat your shoes anyway. But instead of asking yourself, do I feel like doing this? It's what would someone who's disciplined to getting to their goal do here? The scoreboard is going to be a lagging indicator. One of the biggest mistakes people make in fitness is they start checking the score too often. They check the mirror every day. They weigh themselves every day. They panic over normal fluctuations. They obsess whether the plan is working or not before the plan's had enough time to do anything. The whole process becomes extremely emotional, and then you become a little unstable with those said emotions, and you're only measuring success by visible outcomes. But outcomes are late, they're delayed. People often quit before they see the outcomes. So, what shows up in the process? Are you training with intention? Are you sleeping better than months ago? Are you being better with your consistent meals? Are your meals more consistently healthy, right? Are you more active? Are you stronger on your lifts? Are you walking daily? Are you keeping the promises you made to yourself? Those are the signs that matter early on. The score will take care of itself in the long run, right? When we have a standard of high performance and it's high enough and maintained long enough, doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be robotic, but professional. The word here is professional. You don't have to be a professional athlete to act professional in your life. Professionalism means paying attention to details. It means being prepared, being prepped. It means respecting the fundamentals. It means not treating your body like something you can ignore and behave carelessly. A professional doesn't rely on motivation. Professionals have a way of operating. Think about your professional. What are you professional at? And what do you do to act and become professional? Fundamentals are boring, and that's a good sign. People often say that the basics are boring, and it is right. Basic lifting is boring compared to a circus exercise, but it's more effective. Meal prep and eating the same meals every day or every week is boring compared to cheat day fantasies. Going to bed early is boring. Walking every day can be boring, but boring is not bad. Boring is usually where mastery lies. And there's ways of not being bored. You have to learn to love the process. Learn to love getting a little bit better each day. Learn to love to challenge yourself in these aspects. Learn to find fitness fun. Things that look repetitive from the outside are often things that are going to create the momentum under the surface. Again, looking at a great squat over and over, it doesn't just happen overnight. They've had to do boring squat sessions for probably decades, and it creates process and progress. There's things that are happening deeper when you commit to the basics. You're training your character, not just your body. Every time you follow through with a small standard, you reinforce a message, I am a person who handles little things well. That identity carries over, and your identity starts to change. It changes how you work, how you communicate, how you keep your space, how you lead your family and friends, and how you approach hard things. There's a very hidden advantage of doing simple things very well. When your sleep is dialed in, you recover better. When your nutrition is stable, yeah, you recover better too, but your cravings are easier to manage. When you strength train, your body becomes more resilient. When you walk more, fat loss is so much easier. Your stress comes down. You're outside more. You're getting sunshine. Your routine is clean. You can push harder at the gym when it actually counts. And that's what establishing the run does. It creates freedom through reliability. Now, if you want to run a bit more advanced, your body can handle it. You can play with ideas. You can do a play action pass. You can do some fancy runs, but you need to establish the run first. Work can get stressful. If you have a system that keeps you strong, you can absorb that stress without collapsing. It's a huge advantage. People with standards do not need perfect conditions when they have structure. They can adapt without losing themselves. They can make adjustments without turning every setback into a crisis. Basics are not beginner stuff, they're forever stuff. And there's attention to detail. Do you prep your food before you're starving? Do you have meals that you can get at right away? Do you go grocery shopping when you're hungry? Not necessarily ideal. Do you keep your environment set up for better support to make better choices? Do you train with good form or ego? Do you have enough margin in your schedule to recover from your workout? Do you notice stress is changing your habits? Do you treat your calendar, kitchen, sleep, and workouts like part of the same system, or are they just an afterthought? Self-leadership needs to come in. You cannot lead your body well if you're consistently neglecting these details that shape performance. It becomes a culture to you. Some people have a culture of excuses, inconsistency, and reaction. Others have a culture of standards, preparation, and flow. If your fitness feels chaotic, don't ask yourself what workouts you need to do next. Ask yourself what the standards of living by, I guess. Ask what behaviors you've normalized and ask whether your days are structured in a way that makes success likely. Again, establishing the run, not just into the gym, but it goes into your life. I think a lot of people who aren't football fans should look up right now establishing the run on YouTube. Just see what that looks like. I think it's so funny when you see a football play drive and it's 17, 18 plays. It's like 10 minutes of clock time. And it's just morally defeating for the other team when you do that. It doesn't always happen like that, but like it's funny. And you know what's really funny is when you establish the run for long enough and then all of a sudden you hit a big play. And then it's kind of like in boxing, you jab, 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 and you're just backing off. You're just, creating distance, and then you go counter, hook, and then uppercut, and then you fucking get them knocked out, right? It's playing chess. It's setting up these moves. And a strong foundation really looks like, at one point, I'd love it if most people could get to training 3 or 4 times a week, and then eating enough protein, walking daily, going to bed at a reasonable hour, managing stress, tracking enough to stay honest, and keeping promises to yourselves. Again, there's no extreme there. You don't need to live in a machine. You need a standard that you can sustain, and then you just add a bit more. You establish that run. You don't need to do all of this at once. Pick one thing that you can establish the run with, and then get to that next first down. And then finish the drive. Get a touchdown, get a field goal, get something, and then the next time you get a chance to have the ball, establish the run again. Do a little bit more. Do more damage. And then once you kind of get comfortable and get a feel, then you can maybe swing for a bigger play. I hope all of that makes sense. I thought that was interesting, of establishing the run. Again, pick one fundamental behavior that you want to rise the standard of that. Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's getting to the gym. Do that for the next 2 weeks. Could be going to the bed 30 minutes earlier. It could be hitting a protein target. It could be walking an extra 1,000 steps a day. It could be going to the gym 3 times a week. What do you think you need to establish the run on? Just pick one thing and just establish it for the next 2 weeks. And then decide, do you do another task or do you go a little bit more? A lot of the podcasts are going to have very similar themes, but that's okay. That's part of it. And I'm just trying to come up with different analogies for you guys. So this is for the football fans. Establish the run, and that's all you need to do, right? Maybe you're down in the 4th quarter. You got 5 minutes left. You don't need to get a touchdown right now. Establish the run. Get a first down. Chip away, chip away, chip away. Until next time.